In the fast-moving rhythm of life, most people are sprinting from one task to another, barely pausing to breathe, let alone to listen. We are overwhelmed with notifications, deadlines, noise, and constant comparison. Our calendars are full, yet our souls are starving. The truth is, the most powerful relationship you will ever have, the one with your Creator, requires something that modern life seems to resist: stillness, silence, space. Because without space, there can be no clarity. And without clarity, you will live life reacting instead of responding, surviving instead of creating, and wandering instead of walking with purpose. Have you ever tried to hear someone whisper in a crowded room? You can't. Not because they're not speaking, but because the environment is too loud. That's what your life often looks like. God isn't silent, He's subtle. He doesn't compete with noise. He speaks in stillness, in wisdom, in intuition. But when your mind is filled with social media reels, constant chatter, and the voices of 1,000 people telling you who to be, what to want, and how to feel, you lose access to the one voice that matters most. Not because it left you, but because you've stopped tuning in. Creating space isn't about having more hours. It's about protecting minutes. It's about being intentional with the margins of your day. Just 10 quiet minutes in the morning where you shut off your phone, center yourself, breathe deeply, and align your thoughts with the presence of God can shift your entire day. It's in that silence that you begin to see what you couldn't see before. Ideas flow, peace returns, priorities realign. You stop chasing and start listening. Think of your mind like a garden. If you never stop to pull out the weeds of stress, overthinking, comparison, and fear, they will grow wild and choke out the beautiful seeds that God has placed in you. Seeds of vision, peace, creativity, direction. But when you create space, when you remove the weeds and water the roots, you begin to grow the fruit of divine alignment. You become more than productive, you become purposeful. You stop being busy and start being effective. Consider this real life example. Imagine someone driving through thick fog. They know they're supposed to go somewhere, but they can't see the road. They keep driving fast, hoping speed will somehow make up for the lack of vision. But in reality, the faster they go, the more dangerous it becomes. That's how many of us live. We move fast without clarity. And the result is burnout, confusion, and misdirection. Now picture someone who pulls over, turns on their hazard lights, and waits until the fog clears. When it does, they move forward with confidence because now they can see. That's what creating space for God does. It clears the fog of life. It's not just about prayer or meditation or journaling, though those are powerful tools. It's about a mindset, a decision to say, I value the voice of my source so much that I will schedule time to hear it. It's about not starting your day with the world's opinion, but with divine wisdom. It's about guarding your energy, your attention, and your spirit like treasure. Because it is. Creating space for God is also about what you say no to. Every yes is a no to something else. When you say yes to unnecessary meetings, toxic conversations, endless scrolling, or the pressure to please everyone, you are saying no to yourself and to the still voice that is trying to guide you. You can't hear God clearly if you're always in a rush to meet the world's noise. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life won't come through hustle. They will come in silence. They will come when you pause, when you reflect, when you listen. That moment when an idea drops into your mind that you weren't even looking for. That solution to a problem you've been wrestling with for weeks. That clarity on a relationship, a decision, a direction. That's the reward of space. It's not wasted time. It's invested presence. And let's be real. Life won't give you space. You have to take it. It won't feel convenient. You'll be tempted to skip it. But that's when you remind yourself, peace isn't found in performance. It's found in presence. Alignment with God doesn't come from doing more. It comes from creating space to be more grounded, more aware, more aligned with what truly matters. So today, challenge yourself to unplug, to pause, to step away from the noise and reconnect with your source. Not to get something, but to simply be in alignment. Because when you are aligned, you don't chase purpose, you live it. You don't beg for answers, you receive them. And you don't panic in chaos. You move with quiet confidence, knowing that the one guiding you never fails. Create space, and you will create strength. There's a difference between living by permission and living by purpose. One keeps you waiting, the other keeps you moving. Most people are waiting on a sign, waiting for some external confirmation, waiting for someone to tell them, yes, now you're ready. Yes, you can begin. Yes, you are enough. And so they pause their lives, stalling their progress, holding back their potential, because they haven't heard a voice loud enough to validate what they already know deep inside. But here's the truth. When you have a relationship with God, you're not here to beg for permission. You're here to listen for purpose. And purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. Every single human being is born with a built-in compass, something inside you that instinctively knows what you're meant to do, how you're meant to live, what lights your soul on fire. But over time, that compass gets buried under other people's expectations, fears, traditions, and distractions. The world teaches you to look outside for validation while God planted your direction within. You don't need to wait for a loud voice in the sky. The voice is already in your spirit, nudging you, guiding you, reminding you of who you really are. Think about this. A seed doesn't ask permission to grow. It simply follows the pattern encoded within it. It doesn't argue with the soil. It doesn't negotiate with the rain. It just listens to the law of its nature and follows it faithfully. That's how purpose works. It's not about being qualified by people. It's about being aligned with what's already planted inside of you. When you stop looking for permission and start listening for purpose, your life starts to bloom in places you didn't even expect. Let's take a daily life example. Picture a young woman with a gift for speaking, for inspiring others, for expressing deep truths in simple words. Every time she talks, people are moved. Not because she's trained, not because she's certified, but because there's something on her. But instead of stepping out and using her voice, she keeps waiting. Waiting for someone to tell her it's okay. Waiting to be hired, to be noticed, to be chosen. All the while, purpose is burning inside of her like fire. She's asking for permission when she's already been prepared. The question isn't whether she's allowed to move forward. The real question is she listening to what's been planted within her? This is where relationship with God becomes everything. Because when you walk closely with the one who made you, you begin to realize something powerful. Purpose is not an event, it's an alignment. It's not a job title, it's not a stage, it's not a moment of applause. Purpose is waking up every day tuned in to your divine assignment and walking in it even when nobody sees you, especially when nobody sees you. Listening for purpose means asking the right questions. Not, do people approve of this? But does this feel aligned with who I truly am? Not, but is this what others expect? But is this what my soul is calling me to do? The truth is, when you start living by purpose, you won't always be understood. People might question your choices. They might try to box you in. But when you've heard the inner whisper of God, the one that speaks in your gut, in your peace, in your passion, you no longer need to be understood by everyone. You're driven by something higher. This kind of listening is quiet, but it's powerful. It requires you to step back from the noise of the world and reconnect with the stillness within. It's in those moments of reflection, when the world is quiet and your heart is open, that clarity starts to rise. You'll feel it not as a demand, but as a direction. Not as pressure, but as pull. That's when you know it's purpose. Purpose is not passive. It calls you to act. And action doesn't always wait for comfort. Sometimes you'll have to move forward when you feel unsure. But faith is not about having all the answers. It's about trusting the voice that gave you the instruction in the first place. The same voice that put the dream in you will guide you through the process of bringing it to life. But you have to listen. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a willing heart. You don't need to be famous. You need to be faithful. You don't need everyone's approval. You need inner conviction. That's the power of listening for purpose. It breaks you free from the cycle of procrastination and fear and moves you into a life of action, clarity, and deep fulfillment. So ask yourself today, am I living by permission, waiting for the world to say yes? Or am I living by purpose, already responding to the voice of God within me? When you stop asking for permission and start listening for purpose, you step into a life that's not only meaningful, but unstoppable, because nothing is more powerful than a person walking in divine alignment, moved not by applause, but by assignment.